Hello there, and welcome to A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. And today I get to delve back into my as yet untapped Coen Brothers back catalogue. I can again tick off another one of their films. I think it might be one of the last ones that I haven't seen at least once, with the 2000s Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And it's funny, really, with the Coen Brothers, because, and especially watching them out of order like this, and I suppose this is the thing I've discovered through this series, is watching certain directors. I mean, as I've demonstrated, there are directors who I've gone all the way back to their first films, or their earliest films, whereas the Coen Brothers, I seem to be bouncing around all over the place. I mean, I have a greater knowledge of some of their late 2000s films, particularly when they really delved into the westerns onwards, and then have sort of circled back. But I definitely have been sort of bouncing back and forth between their filmography, and it's interesting watching this, because you really do see the hallmarks of films that will precede them, and the elements that obviously they like within filmmaking are laid out here in a way that I think I've talked about with other directors, the idea that this is almost like the calling card of their style. I mean, I suppose really the thing about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou at its core is that it's supposedly an adaptation of the Odyssey, and it is. I can't deny it is, but at the same time, it's like someone vaguely told them the plot of the Odyssey, referenced to the sirens, referenced the Cyclops, referenced Odysseus returning to have to confront his wife's suitors, and they kind of get to have a grasp of the plot, but as they've scripted it, they've removed pieces or changed them to the point where if you watched this, if I showed this to someone who didn't know it was an adaptation of the Odyssey, I genuinely would be surprised if they didn't clock that, because I only know because I was aware of it before. And once you have that, of course, you can pick out the things like the fact that George Clooney's character, Everett, his first name is Ulysses, which of course Ulysses or Odysseus, the main adventurer. But frankly, I don't think the Coen Brothers set out, in the way with a lot of adaptations of classic literature, the Coen Brothers didn't set out to just tell the story of the Odyssey. They just used it as a framework to explore a story of I suppose, them trying to tell classic Americana. And as I say, as a hallmark of their style, I think that's really at the core of what they like to do, which is go and tell, almost like, take American history, whether it be fairly recently, in this case, where it's set in the 1930s, or go right back to the Old West. Which, of course, for other countries, like here in the UK, it's like, well, that's only a couple of hundred years. That's barely any time at all. But in terms of American history, that charts for them almost the entire modern American, of course, not factoring in the Native Americans, but the sort of the modern white American or Anglo-American journey from that period up to now. And this really is a sort of encapsulation of Americana and the South at a period where it could be adventurous, but also have the quirk of a Coen Brothers staple, So, I mean, having George Clooney, who of course has appeared in several of their films, including Hail Caesar and Burn After Reading, that's making him their lead. Of course, that predates both of those, but that's a recognisable hallmark for them. You even have a cameo from extended cameo from John Goodman, who of course they've worked with many times. You have the fact that you have three male leads. I mean, Everett being our Odysseus, you know, is a direct adaptation. But then you also have Delmar and Pete, who don't exist within the classic story. They are the trio. Are a trio of original Southern characters that just have that the spirit of the 1930s sort of Depression era South. You know, three prisoners who have escaped and are trying to make their way to what they understand to be treasure. Although, again, with the Coen Brothers style, they don't want to just... This is, I think, why they would use something like the Odyssey. They don't just want to tell a story as and have a particular consistent style to it. You know, they meet an old blind man who has a prophetic way of telling them what's going to happen in the story, and yet he stands out. It's not a magical world that they live in. So when he does that, that's almost like a strange quirk outside of the text, almost like a narrator telling them what their arc is going to be. You know, but then you have, like I said, more literal adaptations of the Odyssey, where you have, say, the Sirens, who are just three singing women washing clothes, and there is something quite hypnotic about the sequence. It's directed to have a strange, hallucinogenic style to it, only to then discover, oh no, they were literally drugged. Or the Cyclops, which is John Goodman's character, who is just a man who has one eye, as in lost the other one. And yet that those are very grounded, and again, it has that Coen Brothers humour to it. You have that sense of quirk, where your three leads have this real bounce back and forth between three, not even working class, but sort of like rednecky type Americans, who one of them seems to be the George Clooney seems to be quite eloquent, and yet there's something about him that's a bit of a wheeler dealer, and the relationship between the three, who don't always know how to talk to each other, but you get the sense that they build this bond over the journey. And you go from place to place, from, like I said, Depression era farmhouse, where, you know, a guy is one of the last farmers to not lose his farm, or, you know, you have this other guy who you have, what's his name, Tom Cooper, the guy, Tom Robinson, who of course purportedly sold his soul to the devil to play the guitar. They encounter him, so it really does veer away from the Greek myth style of it, and really tries to inject American mythology to it. I mean, they meet this guy who picks them up, and initially just seems like a guy who's trying to find a town, only to discover that he's a thrill seeker who breaks into banks, or not breaks, it's like heists, runs heists in banks, robs them, only to then get quite depressed once he's been successful and go, well, you can just keep the money, I don't care, and falls into these strange depressive episodes and just wanders off. And it's stuff like that that really gives it that sense of character and personality, where you're like, oh, this really is trying to paint the portrait of a time and place. As I say, the Coen Brothers hallmarks are there. It has that modern Western sensibility to it, you know, which of course you'll get in an actual modern Western with No Country for Old Men, and then you'll get with their them doing a Western adaptation like True Grit, which I still think, well, actually, between those two films, might be their best two films. But you can see that this lays the groundwork for those, and of course, it has that sense of anthology to it, where yes, it's quite tight in respect of you have three characters and they have specific arcs and they're encountering other characters on their journey, and yet I think the Coen Brothers love that sense of meeting characters at different points. You know, you have the mayor who's trying to run for re-election, and yet is struggling under the new candidate who's just much more popular. Or, as I say, you have all these characters who they just keep encountering, or maybe they only have one interaction with, who, you know, that really gives that sense of, oh, these are fragments of different stories that you might get a conclusive arc to, or you might just get one interaction with. And again, there is something Lebowski about it. You know, your three leads. If you look at Lebowski and then you look at Everett, you can sort of see a parallel. And of course, you know, with their two sidekicks in both cases, you can see the trio thing that you know, one echoes the other. And then, of course, in both cases, one of the trio is lost for one reason or another. And you have to then see the dynamic change because, you know, they're down one and there's only the two of them. Now, in this case, it's not quite as important, whereas in The Great Lebowski, it becomes a pivotal plot point about how they need to react after their friend is gone and how that changes their relationship. To the point where there's a theory about how that character doesn't even exist, and that was a fabrication, but it's not relevant. And in this, it's less key because it resolves in a very different way, but you can see them already testing the ground with that. And again, they do shift from subgenre to subgenre in a really stylized way. They'll go from a comic scene to a drama scene to almost a horror. There's a scene where you see a moment with the sheriff and his men who are chasing these men down, trying to recapture them or kill them, and it almost goes into a horror territory. I mean, purportedly the Sheriff Cooley, who is trying to chase him, is supposed to represent Poseidon. Now, you wouldn't necessarily know that unless you'd read it, but again, he has that sense of threat and atmosphere to him, and you know, when in this one sequence, he genuinely is quite terrifying, and yeah, and it really does show that, like I say, that sense of expanding modern mythology and them trying to tell this classic and yet modern reinterpretation of that classic. I don't think it's one of their best ones. I do think it's a bit of a testing ground that will lead to better films from them. As I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of their comedies. I find the quirk amusing, but it doesn't engage me in the same way that their westerns do. But again, this film does have some real interest to it. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you like that video, please hit the like button, comment below, and share the video, because those all help me in the algorithm. Please do check out my back catalogue of videos and follow me on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley, where I'm always tweeting about movies, TV shows, and I share these videos there once they're uploaded. Thank you for joining me. Take care.